resellers, it's Suzanne, and welcome to episode number 39 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is December 15th, 2021, and my guest today is Rachael Hilst, who's going to share a lot of good information about her business and some interesting things that she sells. Before we get into the chat, I wanted to remind you that my 2022 interactive eBay calendar is for sale in my eBay store, along with the BOLO book. Both of these make great gifts for your favorite reseller, even if that favorite reseller is yourself. And because they are educational materials, they are tax deductible. So just make sure you have a record of purchasing those items and inform your CPA when it is tax time. Okay, let's get into the interview with Rachael. Okay, today we have Rachael with us, and she is a superstar on the $100 supersized threads. I know I've seen you on that one as well as the Money Making Monday, and you sell some cool stuff. So how are you doing this morning, Rachael?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I've never done this before.
Well, you're going to be fine. I'm glad I could be your inaugural podcast.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Where are you located?
I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm in a suburb of Dallas, Texas.
You're the third person I've had on this year that's from Texas. Ginger is from Athens, Texas, and Max Green is from Austin. And there might be more before we finish out the year.
All right. Yeah, so, Texas is a big place. Lots of stuff to buy and resell.
And I hear that both Austin and Dallas are thrifting meccas.
Yeah, I believe that.
Okay.
I haven't been to Austin to resell, but it's big like Dallas. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go through the standard questions so everybody can get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
How did you get started with eBay?
My daughter is now 18 and a half. She's in college. And I started before she was born, but I got really into it when she was an infant because I wanted her to wear Gymboree clothes. You remember Gymboree, the brand?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't afford them new either.
No. And so I had been gifted some for her when she was a baby. And I said, I really like these, but they're really expensive. So I'm going to flip them on eBay and use that money to buy more. And so I did that for a while. When she would outgrow a size, I would sell them on eBay and then take that little bit of money, buy more outfits. And then I thought, well, maybe if I go to Goodwill and buy some used Gymboree clothes, I could flip those. And so that's how I started. I started buying and reselling Gymboree baby clothes. And then I went on to baby toys. And then she grew up. And then I went to toys. And then I expanded from toys to the whole store. And now I don't sell baby clothes at all. I don't even sell clothes, period, at all. So that's how I got started.
Were you ever in any of the Gymboree groups? I think on Yahoo groups.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was. They would leak out like, this is going to be the line for spring 2006. And so they would be like, I don't know, like bootleg pictures that people had posted, like this might be the item that, the line that comes out, and selling back and forth. And I was on Gymboree, I think it was Gymboree message board, and we would get on there and buy and sell from each other for a while. Yeah.
I think that's how a lot of moms got into it back in the day. I started in 2003. When did you start?
Well, that's the year my daughter was born. It was 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. I opened my account in 2001 and bought a few things for myself. Like I remember the very first item I bought for myself was a 1978 Muppet Show lunchbox. It was the same one that I had when I was in kindergarten. I still have it upstairs in the closet. That was the very first thing I ever bought on eBay. And then in 2002, we decided what her nursery was going to be Sesame Street. And so I was going on eBay to find, decorations and things for her, the sheets and the valance for her window and the diaper holder and all of that. Because it was a very specific Sesame Street pattern that they didn't have in the stores anymore. So I started buying that in 2002. And then when she was born in 2003, started buying and selling Gymboree clothes. So, Yep.
Were you a member of Here Comes the Stork?
No.
Okay.
But I've heard of it. Was that a message board for like?
That was one of the first subscription groups, and it was moms selling kids' clothes on eBay, and it was networking and support, and you could ask questions. And I was a member. I think it was $5 a month. It was nothing. And I couldn't understand why people were only selling kids' clothes, because I had just started, and, I would explain, you guys can sell other things. You can sell adults' clothes. You can sell kitchen stuff. You can sell, and nobody was interested. They only wanted to sell these higher end kids' clothes. So
there's a lot of money to be made in some of those clothes. The kids' clothes that are only sold in like the boutiques and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money. That's the outfits with the smocking and stuff on with the little holiday appliques. Those go for good money. I never find those. I don't know if they're not in style anymore, but I don't ever see those anymore at the stores, at the Goodwills and whatnot.
Right. I've sold a few, but that is not my area of expertise. Anyway, I was encouraging people to sell other things because I was selling other things.
Right.
And
yes.
So that is the first online group that I got kicked out of.
Oh, you got kicked out?
They didn't like me giving suggestions to sell other things. The person who ran the group was all, this is only kids' clothing, and you're going to be banned if you don't stop suggesting other things and helping other people. And I thought, wow, that person is very threatened. So
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that's I got odd. Kicked out. I was like, hey, I've been thrown out of better places than this. I don't need y'all.
Yeah, you stick to your baby clothes and your little one.
Yeah, it was fine.
Area.
So anyway, you started with that. And then how did you morph into selling other things?
Well, another one of my mom friends also sold stuff on eBay, and she sold other stuff like china, antique china, which still does not do it for me. There's too many. I just don't. There's too much, and it's just not my thing. But it was her thing. And so when I was looking at the baby clothes, she was over in the Housewares looking at china, and I think this matches the kind my grandmother has, and it's really old. And we didn't have smartphones. This was like 2006, 2007. And so she was like, you should come over here and look at the Housewares. So I went over there and started looking at Housewares stuff. And I started out buying stuff. Now I think back about the stuff that I used to get. It was so common, but that's all I knew. I didn't have any way to research it, So I started out selling like dishes and coffee mugs. I sold a lot of coffee mugs. I still sell a lot of coffee mugs. And just branched out from there. And then I went, and now I go to the entire store. I don't go to clothes at all. I don't sell. If I'm going to get a return, it's going to be clothes 100% of the time. So I just don't even go there. So that's how I started, just baby clothes and then baby toys and then regular toys. And then went with my friend to Housewares. And because my daughter by then had outgrown Gymboree, by the time she got to be 4 or 5, she didn't want to wear Gymboree anymore anyway. So I stopped selling it. I didn't keep up with the new lines that were coming out. I had no idea. And then they started going financially, they eventually went bankrupt. So I don't think you can even find it in the stores anymore. But then I just went to Housewares and branched out. And I didn't even start going to estate sales until about 3 years ago. A friend of mine said, you should start going to estate sales. So then I branched out. After like 15 years, I finally branched out to estate sales. So that's where I get thrift stores, and estate sales is the only places that I get. I don't go to garage sales. It's too hot here in Texas for that. Okay. So I only go to thrift stores and estate sales. So
now backing up to pre-eBay, what kind of job did you do before you got into
Um,
eBay?
I have been a stay-at-home mom with my daughter since I was pregnant with her. I only have one daughter. So before I had her, I worked for a health insurance company. And then before that, I worked for a credit union. But once I got pregnant with her, I had a bunch of complications and problems, and I was in the hospital a lot. So I just didn't work. And I haven't ever gone back I don't have any health issues anymore, but I didn't go back to work after that. I don't resell full time, but it definitely pays for, gas, groceries, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the jobs you had pre-eBay helped with your eBay business, like the credit union and numbers and?
No,
Not really.
I don't think so. No, what I did at the credit union didn't really have to do with money. I worked in the, when people would buy a new car, sell their car, I would get the title out. And, this was before we didn't even have like real computers. So it was all paper. It was back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, we had a computer, but it was we didn't have email or anything like that. So everything, if someone came in, pay off a loan or whatever, I'd have to get their title out and sign it off and all that. But I didn't deal with money. I wasn't a teller. I didn't deal with money or anything like that.
So you didn't deal face-to-face with customers?
Sometimes, but not on a day-to-day basis. No, we would have customers come into our office in our department maybe once a week, a couple times a week, but not all the time. No.
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of people come to eBay from all kinds of professions and different walks of life, and they may not have the customer service experience and don't really know how to talk to people when there's a problem, without getting defensive. And so you're a great example of somebody who just kind of fell into this and you made it work. And it's not because, your grandma had an antique store and all this, or you worked in retail, or there's a lot of jobs out there that do provide some great background skills that can transfer to eBay, but
right.
Most people don't. They just jump into it and go. And it's kind of an intuitive thing where you just learn. You were talking about before smartphones, and I was with you on that. What I used to do was I kept a little notepad in my purse, and I would write down things, brand things I wasn't sure about buying. And I would go to the library closest to that thrift store and use their computer to look it up on eBay, because I might be too far from home to go home and do it. And that was before smartphones, and everybody carried a laptop with them, and you could go to Starbucks. And I went through that too. I would bring a laptop later, but I was like, how can I figure out if I should buy this before I buy it with the technology around me? And that was really old school, but and stuff was only $3 or so. But when you have 20 items you're not sure about and money's tight, you don't want to just buy everything and then get home and realize that was not a good buy.
I did that a lot. I didn't even go to Starbucks. Back then, there weren't even Starbucks on every corner like there are now.
That's what I mean is I would have to go to the library.
Yeah, I didn't even think about going to the library. I would just say, well, I'm going to buy this, and just chance it. And at the beginning, a lot of things were redonated back to the thrift store that I bought, and they don't sell or they sit forever, and I lose money on fees or whatever. And I thought, just take it back. A lot of times I would buy it just at a risk, and I'd get home and it would be worth nothing, or it would be worth very little. I would list it, make $1, and and it started from there. And then smartphones came out in, I don't know, what was that, 2009 or 10 or something, and changed my whole life. Like everything. It was awesome. Yeah. It was amazing.
That was just like the angels were singing.
Oh,
we can great. Look this up in the store. You don't have to leave.
Store. No, and I don't have to buy 20 things and maybe 18 of them are worthless, So, and I'd already gotten some of the knowledge from those few years of buying and having to take it back. I knew by then, by 2010, whenever the smartphones came out, I knew, okay, this item is worthless. I don't need to look it up. I know that this is, there's a million of them listed, or it's not worth anything or whatever. So with having Google at my fingertips and eBay has just changed. I look up everything. I look up every single thing. It's great that I haven't ever seen. I mean, if I've seen it before and I know it's not worth anything, I don't look it up. But that's why I sell such weird stuff, because I look it up and I think, I've never, after you do reselling for so long and you go to garage sales, you go to thrift stores, you go to estate sales, you start to notice that people had the same stuff back in the 60s and 70s. People shop at the same stores, buy the same things. The decor is pretty much the same. Everybody had the same dishes and the same whatevers. So you can go to an estate sale and you're like, I've seen this before. I know, this is very common stuff. But then you see that random weird pottery thing in the corner and you look underneath and it says Robert Maxwell, 1962. Well, what is that? I Google it. Oh my gosh, this little weird pottery thing is worth $150 and they have it for $2 because they don't know. So, that's how you start looking up. Now I gravitate to things that are weird and I've never seen before, because 90% of the stuff that's at Goodwill I've seen before. Honestly, remember that black Star Trek cube that I sold a couple weeks ago?
Yes.
Yeah, I walked past that. I don't normally sell electronics because there's a lot of dishonest buyers in the electronic area. So I don't usually buy VCRs or anything like video game. I don't do video games or anything like that. But I saw this box and I saw that it had a hinge. So I opened it up and I was like, oh, this is a mini refrigerator. So I went back, plugged it in, it lit up green. I just wanted to make sure it worked, and it lit up green. And I was like, what is this? So I flipped it over, had a model number on the bottom. I put it into Google and looked it up, and it was a Star Trek cube refrigerator that they don't sell them anymore. You can't buy them anymore. And so it was worth like $200 or $300. So I was like, I'm getting this. They wanted $10.99 for it at Goodwill. So, and it sold pretty quickly. In like 10 days, it sold for like, I think it was $125 or something like that.
Well,
so,
and that's unique enough to where a collector isn't going to return it.
Right.
You're not going to pull a fast one on you and say, oh, this doesn't work, or it's missing the flux capacitor thing or whatever.
Yeah, there were no parts on it that they could take off and fix their own. It was a refrigerator. So a lot of times with the video games and VCRs and whatnot, they'll take off the whatever piece they need, return the body of it, and then you lose money.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that there were so few of these. Even on Google, I could only find like 2 that had sold in the last few years. So now the box was really big. It did cost a lot to ship, but it was hollow because it's a refrigerator. So the box was big, but it was light. So it didn't really cost a crazy amount, but the box, was like 12 by 12 or whatever. It was a pretty big box.
Yeah, one of those little mini fridge. Somebody's going to love that.
Oh, I'm sure some Star Trek person is, Merry Christmas to me. I found this refrigerator. Yeah. So,
well, back to the days of no mobile phones, the whole writing it down, going to the library, all that. I only did that for a few months, and because that's how I learned,
Yeah.
Yes, I could have bought things and gotten home, and I just didn't want to do that. I thought, I've got time. I can run over here, and I would figure out where the library was nearest to whatever thrift store. Like, okay, I can go to that one while I'm over here. And that's how I learned. So I didn't do that forever. But now you learn by repeatedly seeing the same things and realizing, okay, yeah, that's junk. I've seen that 4 times. I know not to look at that. And it's just how we learned was different. But that comes with experience. Once you keep putting yourself out there again and again and again, you just know. It's just like anything else in life. If you're learning a musical instrument, you suck at first and you keep practicing and practicing. And the more you practice, the better you get and the faster you learn. So that's my message to new people or frustrated people, that you have to practice this. It's like any other skill. Yes, some people are more intuitive or knowledgeable. If you're lucky enough to have had a family member who was into antiques and collectibles.
Right, exactly.
Everybody knows something though when they start, whether it's something you collected as a kid or like you had this lunchbox or whatever. Everybody starts with a certain amount of knowledge and then you just keep building on that. So What is the most expensive thing you've ever sold?
I was thinking about this yesterday. I figured that you would ask. I have two items that are tied for the same amount, $600, which I know isn't as big. Some people have thousands of dollars. I don't know where they get these items, but anyway, I sold a sewing machine, and I don't know how to pronounce it. It starts with, it's like, it's the same brand. They also make motorcycles, and it's a Swedish brand or something. It's like Husqvarna, Husqvarna, something like that.
Husqvarna. There is a Husqvarna lawn equipment repair place right where I live.
Yes, they
what a weird thing.
I know. Well, I never look at sewing machines because they're a dime a dozen. I mean, they're all over. Everybody's mom was sewing in the 70s, and everybody had the same Sears, sewing machine because they were cheap and easy to get. But I saw this one said on the case, it said Husqvarna, and I was like, no, I know that's not from Sears, and I know that's not a common brand. I thought it was like a brand of like motorcycles or something. So I took the lid off, and it had a huge touch screen where you could like program stuff. And I was like, what is this? Isn't a regular sewing machine. So I flipped it over and looked at the model number and typed it in, and they're worth like, I think for new, they sell for like $2,000. It was a crazy amount. And Goodwill was only asking like, I can't remember exactly, but it was under $20, maybe $15, $20 for this sewing machine. And it sold very quickly on eBay for $600. So, and it had all of the little paperwork and I don't think it had ever really been used, or very little, had all of the threads and everything with it. So I sold it for $600, and they paid for shipping. And it was probably honestly about $200 for shipping because it weighed about 30 pounds. So that was my that was my second really big item. The first one, probably the most random thing, but I went to an estate sale on like the third day. It had very little. It was the end of the day, and I was just walking through this house. I was the only one in there besides the people working there. And I looked down on this little bookshelf in the bedroom, and there was this troll figurine, like the troll dolls. But, they started back in the 1960s. It's called Thomas Dam Trolls. I think they started in like 1964. And this was a taller one. It was about 6 inches, it had a tail. You always have to look for the tail. It has to have a tail, mohair, and real glass eyes. And on the bottom,
that is excellent information. Thank you.
If it's made by Russ, Thomas Dam sold his business to Russ in I think the 80s, maybe the early 90s. If it's made by Russ, it's not worth anything. I don't care how cute it is. I don't care how big it is. I don't care if it has a tail. If it's made by Russ, it's not worth anything. I hate to say it, but they're just not, because they have plastic eyes, no tail, and fun fur hair, which is not worth anything. So I found this troll, and it was the last day of the sale, or maybe the end of the sale. I bought it for $2. It was about 7 inches tall. So it was pretty good size, very hard plastic. You can also tell the plastic is different. Now they use squishier plastic. This was very hard plastic. I mean, you couldn't squeeze it, but it was plastic. And it was about as tall as a Coke can, a little bit taller than a soda can. And I sold it for $600 in like a week, maybe a week. This has been about probably 7 or 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So those are my two biggest sales, biggest flips.
Well, those are great. Nothing wrong with that. No. I think you're going to stumble on something that's going to be thousands. It just hadn't happened.
I haven't yet. And I will.
But you will. You know enough to dig deeper, and you look for the odd things, and it's coming. It's coming.
I hope so. It's been almost 20 years. I found the hundreds of dollars. 600 is my max. I haven't found anything more than that, though. But my
like that
is
autograph book I found. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen when you walk into a thrift store. You don't know what is just going to be right in front of you. And that autograph book, did you see that story?
No, but I sold an autograph book. It was an Elvis Presley scrapbook. I found it at an estate sale. They had taken out all of the Elvis Presley clippings and photos, but it was just the Elvis Presley scrapbook from 1957. And I bought it for $2. and it sold for $150 in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I listed it, went to pick my daughter up from middle school. And when I was sitting in the parking lot at the middle school, my phone went cha-ching and I sold it in 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's huge. And
Yeah.
the one I found, it turned out to be the coat check girl at Sardi's in New York. It was her autograph book. And it was just laying on top of one of those bins that had socks and gloves and all this random stuff in it. And I picked it up and I started looking through it, and Elizabeth Taylor, Danny
Oh my
Kaye,
gosh, no, I didn't hear the story.
Sammy Davis Jr., Rock Hudson, all the big stars of the day. And I thought, there's no way this is fake, because the girl had put little pictures of them, like she'd cut them out of magazines or something and had little pictures. And I mean, it was amazing. And I was just, I'm going to get this. It was $3. So it sold for $1,000.
Oh my gosh.
The first person who bought it was international, and he wanted me to falsely claim the value. And I said, no way, because if there's a problem, I cannot file an insurance claim.
Right.
And so we canceled that. And I didn't put it on auction. In hindsight, I should have, but I put $1,000 on it, fixed price. And then it sold again the next day to somebody in London, and he was thrilled. I didn't know if I should take it apart and do individual autographs or if it was worth more intact. So I just left it intact. And then he bought it. He received it. I watched his store. He was an autograph broker, and he took it apart. And
he took it apart. Yeah.
Some of the pages had an autograph on the front and the back. So he had to figure out, if he's going to tear the pages out, which, somebody had to be interested in both, Elizabeth Taylor on one side and then somebody you've never heard of on the other side. So that's fine. That's his business, is being an autograph broker. But that was my highest price thing. But it's just, that's what keeps us going back, is you just don't know what's going to be in front of you. And
you'll never find that again. You'll never, ever find that again.
I don't know. I might find something similar. You just don't know. Yeah. But there's so much stuff out there. And my gut feeling is this lady Helen died, and her kids had all her stuff. Obviously, maybe she moved down here in her old age or something. And it ended up in this thrift store in Metro Atlanta. And
I think people get overwhelmed with stuff and they just want to get rid of it.
Yeah, they just want to get finished. They don't want to deal with it anymore and go through every single piece of paper and every single thing somebody has. Because when you are dealing with a person's estate, it is so time consuming. It's so emotional.
Yes.
And you just like, I can't look at this anymore. Just donate it. And a lot of people, are you a Gen Xer?
I was born in 1973, so that's a Gen Xer.
Yes, that's Gen X is like 65 to 84, something like that.
Oh, right, yes.
So we're now dealing with our aging parents and having to deal with all of their stuff when they pass on or go to assisted living. And I think that's what's happening, is just the thrift stores are full. Okay, listeners, unfortunately, the audio on part of the interview was very garbled and I had to edit that out. But during our conversation, Rachael mentioned that she did not ship internationally. So here is where the conversation picked up. But you said the magic word, so I'm going to challenge you with this. Now, do you know about the eBay standard international shipping?
No.
Okay, let me just throw this out and just challenge you, because I have shipped so many things international, usually a fourth of what I ship every week.
Really?
So this is eBay's version of first class international. If it's under 4 pounds,
4 pounds.
It's a lower rate. See, the GSP, everything is shipped priority, which is such a higher rate.
It's high, yeah.
So if you have items that weigh under 4 pounds, I want to challenge you to go back and put eBay standard international. It's it's their version. They take responsibility. So you're not just shipping it on your own out there into the black hole of the world. It's under eBay's umbrella. There's insurance on it.
I was just gonna ask if you can add, and is it like up to $50 standard, and then you pay for
it's $100. It comes with
that's
that
better.
on it. Yes, and you can always add more with Pirate Ship or Ship Saver that's on the eBay workflow.
Okay.
But it goes to a hub. Erlanger, Kentucky is one. There's one on the East Coast. It goes to a hub, and then they send it on to the country. But it's cheaper for the buyer to do that standard international because it's a first class international rate rather than the GSP. Everything is priority. And yes, some people will pay it and some sellers love it. But if you have things that would qualify, you can sell more stuff. I like all my plush goes international. I don't understand it.
I see that a lot. I also follow on eBay. I mean, on a Facebook group for just plush. People who sell plush. That's all they sell is plush. And I read and this is going to, Australia. Australia buys a lot of plush. And a lot of them are going international. I'm like, why are these people buying? Why is plush so popular in like Australia or London or whatever?
Because they can't find what they want there. They come here because we have more.
I guess so.
But so if you want to try it, email me. I'll help you if you have any questions.
Yeah, I haven't ever done it.
I just want to push you to try it because once you see how easy it is and how much more you can sell. And here's the other thing. I find that international buyers are so much more grateful. They leave wonderful feedback. They're so happy you did this because so many sellers won't do it.
Yeah, like me, I'm scared. I get a lot of people will message me, and it is a lot of toys and plush. How much to ship this to Germany? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't ship to Germany. And they're like, oh, bummer.
Maybe if you just start with plush and see how it goes. Because it's not going to break. You don't have any issues like that.
Right.
Shipping very fragile or very expensive things is kind of out of my comfort zone internationally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really sell a lot of super expensive things, but I feel like I want to challenge you to try that and see.
Yeah, maybe I will.
How it feels. And it's one of those things where like maybe you're getting in your own way with just, I'm not going to do that.
I know I am.
Because when you do it once, you're like, oh God, it's like me hooking up a DVD player. Like, I hate doing that stuff. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. My son, can you come do this? He's like, Mom, it's 2 things to plug in. And so I did it. And I was like, this was so easy. What was I worried about?
Yeah. And I feel like people who buy toys, vintage toys and plush, are very unlikely to return it because they're attached to it. They've been looking for it. They had it when they were a kid. It's not like a VCR where they just need this part. They're going to take it apart and return it, or it's something that could be broken. If you find a Snoopy and somebody in Germany wants it, likely they're not going to return it because they've been looking for it. They came to America, eBay to find it.
Right.
So
and
that's a great idea.
I've never had a plush returned. And again, they're just so grateful that I've been looking for this forever. My son had this when he was a baby and now he's 20 and I want to give this to him for his birthday and just all these cute stories and they're just so easy. So
yeah, plush
that is my challenge for you.
Oh, thank you. I will do it. I'll add some. I have some plush listed right now, Pokemon and a couple of other things. I'll change the listing and see what I get.
And vintage items too, we have all these movie companies and television companies making these throwback shows that they need props. Every time I see, like the Wonder Years is being redone and they need props. So
I've sold one prop before. I sold a Burger King. Was it Burger King? I'm pretty sure it was a Burger King workers, like a baseball cap, not a baseball cap, but what they used to wear back in the 80s, the hat, they had Burger King on it, but it was an employee's hat. And I sold it to, I think it went on Saturday night. I'm pretty sure it was on Saturday Night Live. It was a skit about Burger King about 6 years ago. and shipped it. They paid for overnight shipper, 2 days shipping or whatever, and it went to wherever, in New York where Saturday Night Live is filmed. So yeah, that's the only time I've ever sold anything to, and I know it was Saturday Night Live. I mean, I saw the skit and I saw the name on the address and everything.
Oh,
it was
that's
very
fun.
inexpensive. It was like $15 or something for the hat, but I thought it was cool. I was like, hey, I sold them that hat. So,
That's fun.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
A lot of these streaming channels and production companies are in Canada. I've watched so many things. There was one called Saving Hope. It was about a hospital, and
I remember that
the
show.
guy comes back as a ghost. And anyway, that was filmed in Canada. And there's a lot. Maybe that's one of the things that you can help with is your vintage items to Canada might be going to these production companies.
Right. Yeah, I don't usually ship to Canada. Yeah, that's a good point. Because a lot of the stuff that I do a fair amount of vintage stuff, and it could be in, the background of a TV show. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
What is your favorite category to sell in?
Honestly, I do really well with toys, vintage toys, but just basic, I guess it would fall under housewares, coffee mugs, vintage dishes, and a lot of pottery, that kind. I mean, most of the stuff I sell is pretty, fragile stuff. I've become an expert I pack everything like it's going to the moon. And I've had a few recently. FedEx, I hate to say it, has broken 2 of my items in the last month. But mostly just like dishes and but then I sell, I don't know, it's all over the place. Like I may do really well this month on dishes, and next month I'll sell what is it? Lemax, the Halloween little things that move and play music. I do really well with those, and Halloween especially. I find those for $20 and sell them for $200.
Yeah, people get ready for Halloween all years. Yes, I know some people that that's just their favorite holiday.
Yes.
They don't care about Christmas. They don't care about, the winter holidays. They love Halloween, and they just
I sell holiday stuff all year long. I never take it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it sells all year. It sells better during the holidays. You get a little bit more money, but it will definitely sell all year long. No question about that.
So when you go into a thrift store, what's the first section that you make a beeline for?
These days, I have been finding a lot of baby blankets, like the Morgan baby blanket. I have found a knockoff. I found a knockoff Morgan blanket sold for $75. It wasn't even the Morgan baby brand.
Wow.
Very recently. This has been in the last couple of months. And one time I found I think it was Alexander McQueen. Is that the name? Something like that. It's a brand. You probably know. It's a brand of clothing.
I think I've heard of that.
Alexander McQueen. It was back with the baby blankets, but it was black, and it stood out to me. I was like, that's not a baby blanket. What is that? And they had it with the baby blankets for $1 or whatever. And it was a 100% silk Alexander McQueen scarf, like an oversized scarf. It was black. It had skulls all over it, and it sold for like $100. So I go back to the
sold for 100?
100, over 100. I have to look it up. It was last year. But a lot of people pass by like blankets and sheets and stuff. But I find baby blankets, they're very easy. I bring them home, I wash them. They ship well. They don't break. People are emotionally attached to it. They're not going to return it, even if it has holes, even if it has stains, even if it's very, very used, faded. If it's the blanket that they had when they were a kid and you have it listed for $50, they're going to pay $50. They're not going to complain about it. They're going to get it and they're going to love it. And it's so easy to flip. It's cheap to flip, quick, and they love it. There's a lot of money to be found in like baby blankets.
Yeah, I always look at them. I found some Aiden and Anais. Is that how you say it? Mm-hmm. The muslin swaddle.
Stretchy ones.
4 of those together, and that's going to make a nice set. I think I just listed those.
I see those quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. And they don't look super expensive or fancy. They're very practical, but they're well made and they last. They're swaddle blankets. but they're that cotton that breathes. And
Yes.
so they have the cute little animals on them, and they're very easy to recognize in all that jumble of
Yeah,
stuff.
because they have kind of like a crinkled look to them a little bit, almost like.
Yeah, they're muslin, muslin, which is a
Right.
type of cotton weave that's it's
kind of
not
stretchy,
soft like
yeah.
satin. It's a little bumpy and
Right. Yeah, it's
different, but
bumpy.
it's breathable and easy care type stuff. So
And brand new, they're kind of expensive. Like if you
yeah,
were to
that's an
buy
expensive brand.
it would be like $60, you know, so you could buy them for $1 a piece and, you know, flip them for, you know, 40 or whatever. And they're getting a deal. You're getting a deal. So, you know, it's win-win. Baby blankets are, I think, overlooked. People go to electronics right away, or they go to, like, I see a lot of people digging through big tubs of silverware, and people at estate sales will fight over the jewelry.
Yeah. I'd
Like,
rather have hot poker shoved in my eyes than look through tubs of silverware.
I'm not, and it's so loud. Gosh, I'm like, they dump it out and they're digging through, and it's really loud and annoying. And I look, the first aisle that I go to is the one that has the fewest people, because I don't want to, people get on my nerves. They get in my way. They throw off my system, or my, I don't know. So I will look there's nobody in the baby blankets aisle. I'm going over there. So I've got 3 blankets in my cart that look like nothing. And all 3 of them together is over $100. And they're digging through silverware. They might find a fork or a spoon, you know. It's like, I mean, maybe that's their thing. They like silverware, whatever is your thing. But there's money to be made. Now that I'm telling everybody this, everybody's going to go to the baby blankets. And
no, not really, because some people will just think, well, first of all, belief is what gets you there. You have to believe that you're going to find things and that they're going to be valuable. And that's, I think, the biggest stumbling block for new people is they don't believe. They don't believe that Starbucks plastic tumbler that was a limited edition is going to sell for $200. So they're not even going to look at the plastic crap. They're going to go look at the leather shoes. And
I hate selling
so
shoes.
they have to believe that it's going to happen. And that's just the way I live my life is, you know, I see opportunities everywhere. I see abundance everywhere. And a lot of people don't have that mindset. So let's say you've got some 50-year-old man out there and all he knows is sports jerseys. He's not going to look at the baby blankets.
No. No, probably not. And a lot of people I have found, and I have given this advice myself, I see a lot of people posting, why does anybody go to Goodwill anymore? It's just junk. Now, if you go in there with the mindset that everything in here is junk, then you're not going to find anything, and you're not going to make any money. You're not going to be successful. You're going to get burned out, and you're going to quit in 6 months. I go in there and I think, okay, a lot of this stuff looks like junk, and maybe some of it is, but you have to look it up. You can't go in there with the mindset that this is junk. You have to go in there like, I go in every day. Okay, I'm going to find 3 things today while I'm out. 3 things isn't very much. It's not, it's very little. But maybe the 3 things that I find can flip for $300, you know, and you have to go in and think, this is not junk. This is everything in here I can make money on. Everything, even the junkiest thing you can make money on. Even if it's $1, you're still making money. You can't go in there with the mindset that it's all crap and overpriced crap. Goodwill doesn't know everything, and estate sales do not know everything. They don't have time to know everything. So it's your job to go in and pick up something. You've never seen it before, flip it over. Or if it doesn't have a name on it, you don't know who made it, use the Google imaging on your phone. I use that every single day, and it works. It'll find, even if you have the most, like I sold him, it was a Santa Claus, but he was dressed in like traditional Christmas in China, like how they look at, it wasn't a Chinese Santa, it was a regular Santa wearing like traditional Chinese Santa outfit. It was blue, had jade, had, you know, fur. It was different than ours, but looked it up on my Google images. I didn't know what it was. I had no brand or anything on it. And it came up, and they didn't make very many. And I sold it just like last week for $125. I didn't know what it was, but I Google imaged it and it showed me it was on WorthPoint. I do have a membership to WorthPoint. Looked it up. I was like, wow, this is, you know, $200. I'm going to buy this. And it was broken. Part of it was broken, which I never, ever, ever sell broken items. but I bought this one and I flipped it for $125. I used Google image to do it. So you just got to go in there with the mindset that, yeah, it might be all junk, but you can't tell yourself that. You have to think, this is money. There's money to be made in the store, wherever it is. So that's
well,
mine.
and I love your attitude because I do the same thing. And actually, when I'm in my car on my way to the thrift store, I have this little, I guess, ritual. I don't know if you want to call it praying or talking to the universe, but it's like, okay, help me see the items I need to see. Help me be in the right place to get the things before somebody else gets them. You know, all those things about being in the right place at the right time and getting in that flow of positive energy. And it always, you know, it always works. I always find things. And it's funny. I found those two Coogie sweaters at the same
I've never
time.
found those.
And one just had been sitting there a couple of weeks because the Goodwill puts the date on the tag.
Oh, yes, it was mine.
So you know how long it's been there. And then another one came out on a rack to be put on the floor right next to me where I was standing. And I just turned to get out of the lady's way. And there it is hanging on her rack. And I just got it. And both of them were $6. And one sold for $175 and one sold for $200. And
I have never
you
found
cannot
those.
tell me that was a coincidence because I was
the
in the
thrifting
right
gods
place,
heard you.
the right place at the right time, paying attention, recognizing what's expensive, or at least being curious enough to look it up. So you have to have that mentality with anything really, but definitely with this, because if you walk in, and I've been thrifting with people, I used to take people with me and show them what to do. And their attitudes were terrible. They were like, if they didn't find something in 5 minutes, let's go to another store. And I'm like, well, we haven't looked at everything yet. You know, there could be something hiding. People hide things in the linen.
People hide things. And let me tell you, in the linens, yes. And it's behind the towels. Look behind the towels.
Yeah,
people hide
behind the towels. Look under the pillows. People hide things to come back later. And
on the half off day,
I find those all the time. And it's like, hey, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. You left it here.
I know. I found some silverware, which I never look at silverware. And I never sell shoes, but somebody had hid a handful of silverware in some men's shoes to come back, I guess, on senior day or half price day or whatever. It was very nice silverware, expensive. They were putting it in there to hide it to come back on senior day or whatever. I took it. I was like, hey, they knew it was expensive. They tried to hide it. I'm going to take it and sell it. So when they come back tomorrow, there won't be any silverware in these shoes.
Well, and what I do, and hey, you got to zig when other people zag, right? So our color tag changes on Sundays. So that's the 50% off color of the week. What people do is go on Saturdays and they know what the next color is going to be that changes the next day. They ask, or they just know the rotation, and they put stuff in little clumps. You know, it's all the yellow tags that are going to be 50% off tomorrow. So I love to go late Saturday afternoon and look for these little treasure troves because they've already done the work for me. You know, they pulled the expensive stuff and I'm fine paying $6 for something I can sell for $50.
Right,
but
exactly.
They think they're going to come back Sunday morning, the store opens and go straight to their little stash. But guess what? Mean old Suzanne has been there.
I know your tricks. That's the thing.
That's right. You know, if you're going to do all the work for me, I'm just going to glide along on that.
Yeah, no kidding. And you can't go in there thinking like I have walked in. I sell a lot of American Girl doll stuff too. American Girl doll stuff sells really well, especially the accessories more than the dolls. Dolls are easy to come by, but if you're trying to complete the set of a doll that they discontinued back in the 90s, the little pieces like the little nightstands and stuff like that. Well, I walked in as a lady was walking out with a tree house. It was Kittredge's tree house. They don't make them anymore. And I thought, oh my God, if I had been here 5 minutes earlier, that would be in my cart. But I think, you know what? This is her day. That's her day. Good for her. I've had my days where I've walked out of here with stuff and somebody's commented, oh man, you lucky, you found blah, blah, blah. You know, you'll have your day and they'll have their day. And there's enough stuff for everybody to have their day. So that's how I look at it.
You're right. And I have a troll story because you were talking about trolls a little while ago. I was looking through the plush, and I looked through every single one because the little ones fall to the bottom.
They
And
do.
some of the little ones are your expensive vintage things. Like one I found for $1 was on the very bottom. I sold it for $2.25.
Was it like mohair or something?
It was I think it was Play School, Snuzzles. It was the cow, the plaid. It was very easy to recognize because it was plaid.
Pink plaid, yes, those sell like hotcakes.
$1 sold it for $2.25 in less than a day, full asking.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at everything. What else do I have to do, right? And I love to treasure hunt. So this lady was watching me, and I picked up some Build-A-Bear trolls. I was like, oh, trolls might be a thing. And I was looking them up, and I put them back because they weren't, on my radar. They didn't sell for enough. So she says, oh, are you a reseller? I felt like saying, yeah, here, I even have a book. Here you go. But I didn't. I was like, yeah. And she says, well, what do you look for? And I said, it just depends. It's just a lot of different things. It would take too long to explain. And she says, oh, well, I've been thinking about getting into that. So you don't want these Build-A-Bear trolls? I'm like, nope. And, she wanted to get in this whole conversation about what she thought about trolls and how everybody wants them and all this stuff. And, the standard answer, if somebody thinks you're a reseller and they want to know why you don't want something, is, that's just doesn't fit my business model. That's just not what I'm looking for. And a lot of times I don't even know what I'm looking for. I'm just looking.
I never know I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't look for anything specific. I know a little bit about a lot of things. That's the best thing that has come out of reselling. I know very little bit about a lot of very random things. And that's just, you can only get that way after doing it for a really long time.
And so having a good memory. Because if, people say, how did you know that? And I'm like, oh, I sold one of these 5 years ago. How do you remember that? And I'm thinking,
money.
eBay is like my third child. I'm passionate about it. I remember. And it's important to remember because the best sourcing tool is the human brain.
Right.
It's not a thing that scans or, all these ways that people are trying to make apps to make this faster and easier. It's just, you just have to learn and remember. Yeah.
And it's not something that you're going to learn in a month or even a year. I mean, I'm still learning. I've been doing this for 18 years and I've been doing it now that my daughter, once she started high school, I really started getting into it, like in the last 5 or 6 years. And I mean, I'm still learning still. As long as I'm doing this, I'll be learning every time I go out. So, it's not something that's, you don't make, 10 grand in a month, you throw in the towel. I've never made that. I don't even know if sometimes I didn't make that in a year. You just have to start little and build your knowledge and, go from there.
Any final last words for people just starting?
Don't give up. If you don't make a sale, even if you don't make a sale in the first month, 2 months, after a month, if you haven't made a sale, reevaluate, maybe lower your prices, maybe, but don't give up. Don't feel like if you don't make a sale in a month that it's not for you and you throw in the towel. You have to, it's something that builds over time, and then your feedback starts to go up, and then people see, oh, she has 100 feedback and they're all positive, and it kind of snowballs into making $1 on an item to making 5 to making 20 to making 50 to making 100. And it's not going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen, maybe even 6 months. But just because you're on a Facebook page with people that have been doing this a week and people that have been doing this 20 years, and you can't compare yourself and your sales to somebody that's been doing this for 20 years. I know it's hard not to compare. Well, he showed his 60-day sales is $15,000 and mine's $15. Well, he's been doing this for 15 or 20 years and you've been doing it since June. So you can't compare yourself to anybody else. It's a very individual thing. I mean, even though everybody compares their sales and what they found, it's a very individual thing. So you can't compare your sales or lack of to somebody else. You have to keep in mind that, everybody goes at their own pace. And maybe he does it full time. Maybe you only thrift once a week, or maybe once a month, or whatever. Just keep going. Don't get discouraged when you see the people that sell a lot, because there are a lot of people that sell very little, or just, a very little amount every month or whatever. So just keep that in mind. Don't get discouraged, and don't throw in the towel when you get one rude customer or one eBay transaction that maybe eBay sides with the seller. Don't throw in the towel because that's one little tiny part of a gigantic sales, career or whatever. It's just a blip. It's not going to make or break your eBay sale. One bad feedback is not going to, kill your account. It's not. So you just have to look at the bigger picture instead of every little minutia. Don't let the minutia get
Well, and
to
I
you.
think people need to reframe when they're looking at others that have been doing it longer and are selling more items. Instead of being envious of that, say, that's what's possible. They're doing it. I want to do that too. And learn from them, because you can be successful. And if one person in the world can do it, it can be done.
Yes.
And anybody can do it if you dedicate yourself to that and you make a commitment to do it. So I think rather than just woe is me, looking at, I can't do that, they're so successful, they're smarter than me, they've been doing it longer, they have this, I don't have that. Say, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And ask them. Most people are willing to talk about what makes them successful, because if they think that other people see them as a success, they're going to want to share. Maybe not all of the details, because some resellers keep their very close to the vest or whatever. They don't want to share because they're afraid there's going to be competition. But a lot of selling on eBay is just basic knowledge of how to interact with customers, how to deal with your bank and money. And it's not all the sales part. It's interacting with buyers and sellers and eBay that, don't work, the way that you want it to, how you want it to go or whatever. So a lot of people, if you ask them, I see that you made $10,000 last month. You can send them a private message, I guess. How did you do that? I mean, tell me, I'm new. How do you get started? How do I, in a year from now, make $10,000 in a month? And most people are willing to tell you some of their successes. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you again for spending some time this morning and having coffee talk about eBay.
I love it.
One of my favorite parts of my week is getting on awesome. And doing these chats and just talking to people, because I learned a lot from you. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Thank you for asking.
Well, we're both going to be heading to the post office to ship our stuff. So
that's right.
Thanks again, and we'll see you on Facebook.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. I hope you learned some new things in that podcast, because I sure did. I was taking notes the whole time we were chatting, because Rachael is just full of great information. Thank you, listeners, so much for tuning in and spending some time listening to my podcast every week. I really appreciate you, and I love hearing from you. My contact information is below the podcast, so don't hesitate to drop me a note, good or bad. What do you like? What don't you like? What do you want to hear more of? And I will do my best to accommodate those requests. Have a profitable, productive, and most of all, fun day on eBay. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.